The first thing you're going to do is look in that description box down below, and that'll give you all the information to get this free pattern. This is the pattern right here that we are going to be cutting out. When cutting, make sure that you cut from the outside edge. This is the seam allowance and we need that still. Each pattern piece has a letter from A to D. A and B are exactly the same, so I'm just going to show you how to do one of these with section A of our mini quilts, and then I'll show you C and D in a little while. The important thing about foundation paper piecing is if you have enough fabric to cover. So looking at A1, I'm going to move B out the way. We need to make sure we have enough white section to cover all of this area as well as the triangle. So bear in mind when you do that, try not to be frugal with your fabric, because you can easily make a mistake and not have enough for the area. And if you do make that mistake, you will find out and you'll have to unpick the stitches. So I'm going to make sure that I have a big enough piece of fabric of my white and a big enough piece of fabric for my yellow. Now you can have a whole stack of these going, so you don't have to keep on cutting and stuff all the time. So the next thing I'm going to do is, we are bothered about this line here. So I'm going to fold this line over so I know where I'm going. So section A is first on the paper. He needs to be right sides up. And then this next piece here needs to be right sides down. So we take that over to the sewing machine and we stitch across this line here between A1 and A2. I'm not paid nor sponsored to create this video. And up in that top thread, I'm going to just have a regular Gutermann white polyester. And in that bobbin area, I'm going to have some bobbin thread. I'm going to have a regular sewing foot on, the one with that little black dial on the side, and a 9014 Microtech sewing needle. My stitch that I select is stitch number 3. I always find that I've got to knock it over a couple of inches, well, a couple of notches, using this plus sign, so it'll be on 3.5. and I also have the stitch setting set at a 1.6 because we're just doing a small area, so we want to make them stitches a little bit smaller. Now taking that section over to the sewing machine, we're going to sew this line here. So I'm going to line it up into my needle. This is another reason why I love my Baby Lock Soprano. It's self-threading. As you can see, it's just threaded it just by me pulling the lever. Now let's stitch down that line. I do go in reverse as well, just to lock the stitches in and go forward. Now you come to your section, fold that back, and then we're going to see the next piece on our mini quilt block. So it's between 2 and 3. You're going to fold that back. You're now going to get a ruler and you're going to cut 1/4 inch off. Taking a ruler, cutting your 1/4 inch, and then you're going to look to see what your next colour is. It's a white colour. Like I said, if you have them fabrics already done, you can just grab your next section and put it next to your previous section, and then you're going to sew right along this line. Cut away all your loose threads as you go. Finger press or get this roller and just roll to create that crease and flatten it down, and find your next section, A4, then cut. See what your next colour is. It's a yellow, so I'm going to get my yellow piece. I'm going to apply it next to that previous piece and then sew next to this line. Trim your threads, pull your fabric up, find out what your next colour is, trim your 1/4 inch. I'm going to take a white and we're going to sew that into place. Push this back. Now the next part is the part that I really love. So we are going to cut away all the excess of all of these fabrics here. So go ahead and do all the sides. Now these parts of the corners I prefer to do with a pair of scissors because it's really small. Now this is what it looks like on the other side. You start to see the quilt block come to life. So you're going to do exactly the same thing as what I've just done with section B. So you can either rewind, or I'm sure you know what you're doing by now, and you're going to start with B1, etc. So now you should have both A and B section complete. Let's work on section C together. Now I'm going to need C1 as a white, C2 as a yellow, and I'm going to fold in between C1 and C2, making sure the white fabric is facing up and the yellow fabric is facing down if you have a print on it. Then we are going to sew right across here. We're keeping our work nice and tidy as we go. We are clipping them threads. We're going to flip this up, see what our next section is, and it's this one here. Once again, we're going to cut that 1/4 inch. Next colour was a yellow, so we're going to get our yellow. And then we are going to sew across. I decided to do grey for the centre square. I mean, it's completely up to you. You do whatever you want to do. I just wanted a different look. Also, if you're enjoying this tutorial, don't forget that I have over 500 sewing and quilting tutorials. So subscribe to this video, or subscribe to this channel, should I say, and you will find a lot more videos on sewing and quilting. So I'm going to put this here and I'm going to sew right across. And then push this back. Once again, you will go ahead and trim all this outside off. Now we're on to our last mini quilt unit. I'm going to fold in between D1 and D2. I'm going to get a piece of white fabric which goes on first, and then the second fabric, which is the yellow, goes on second. So I'm going to do this, and then making sure I have that 1/4 inch, and flick that up and then sew along that line. Push this open. Then we're going to do this final section here on our mini quilt. Get another section of yellow, place it down and sew the line in between the D1 and D3. Then push this to the back, and once again you're going to trim all the way around the outside of this quilt block section. The next thing I'm going to do is take all the papers out. This should be fairly easy to do. Try and just fold right where we stitch, and then it really should just tear out. Try not to tear the stitches though, you don't want to do that. So just gently pull. I like to arrange my sections into the quilt block. Now the first quilt block we need to do is these two sections here. So you're going to do them right sides together, and you are going to meet them end to end. You are going to sew a 1/4 inch. Make sure that your sewing machine is sewing a 1/4 inch. I like to use stitch number 30 on my machine with that 1/4 inch foot and guide. Just make sure that it's stitching at 1/4 inch though. If you need to use a piece of scrap, then do so. Then you are going to press it back, take it over to your iron and press this flat. Now for the next part, I recommend that you fold this in half and you find the center of this block, which is there. So it's not at this corner here, it's a little bit in. So it's kind of like in line with this crease. And then we're going to fold this in half because we want to find the center of both units. And once you've done that, you can put it right sides together. So where I've folded that, it goes there. And then the seams should nest nicely. I recommend just clipping it, taking it to your sewing machine and then stitching. And as before, you're going to open this up, take to your sewing machine and press. And once again, you're going to open this up, take it to your iron and press. Now we've got this final part on our miniature quilt. Fold this in half, find the true center by pressing, and then doing the same on your other side of your block. And then putting them right sides together. Once you're happy, nest those seams, they should match up perfectly, and take to the sewing machine. Once again, push this open, take over to your iron and press. I always like to do the left and the right borders, so we're going to attach them first. Now you're going to get your backing fabric and you're going to place your batting on top of that. And then you're going to put your little quilt top on top of that. I like to do some decorative stitching around just to hold everything into place. So for this stitch I used decorative stitch 60 in my Baby Lock Soprano. I've cut away the excess and now I'm going to put on the binding. If you don't know how to do binding, watch my previous tutorial and that will show you how to do it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe and like and comment down below what you think of this mini quilt.